Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Babe and Library. This is your girl, Lisa. And I'm going to be real honest with you all today. I've recorded this video probably 3 times. I've had about 5 different iterations of what it actually is going to be, and I am struggling with content. I'm just starting my channel. How dare I have the audacity to not know what I want to produce to y'all or what I want to give to y'all or what I want this channel to be? Honestly, goes right on fame and brand with me. As far as, again, you all know by now, I am a mood reader. I am all over the place with the genres that I read, and that should be no different from my channel. So please welcome, make yourself at home, get comfy, buckle up. This is going to be a bumpy ride from now until however long I'm doing this, which hopefully will be a while, but if I keep going at this rate, baby girl is going to have nothing to provide to you. So, today I'm going to try, again, this is probably the 5th iteration of this, but I've been reading a lot of nonfiction, and when I say a lot, I mean 1 per month. At this point, I'm actually ahead of schedule, so I have read 9 different nonfictions. However, I'm only going to talk to you all about a small percentage simply because I really want to focus this on being, to be the memoirs of Black women that I've read their perspective from. So you're going to see everything from Michelle Obama's Becoming to Ashley C. Ford's Somebody's Daughter. You're going to hear me talk about Viola Davis's Finding Me and Tarana Burke's Unbound. And I just want you all to get acclimated with, on this channel, we stand Black women. I'm a Black woman. I love to read from the perspective of Black women. I love to read stories about Black women just living their ultimate and best life. So that's what kind of transpired to, or led to rather, this being the vlog that it is today. Before I get into each one of these books and really diving into what the authors were providing in their life story, I do want to provide a few trigger warnings. I've been digging into a lot of heavy content with my nonfiction and some of my fiction readings for the year, and I don't want to press that upon you, so please note, each one of these books have at least one or multiple of these triggers, and if this is something that impacts you, please know that your first and foremost priority is you and your health. And so please know I'll do my best to call it out through the book as I decide to mention it, or if this book contains it, but I do want to make reference that some of these books talk about miscarriage, it talks about infertility or fertility issues. It talks about rape and or child molestation. Some of them talk about suicide. It talks about misogyny. So please be mindful if any of these are triggering to you. Please be careful as you listen to this video and or as you go into these books. Again, they are very heavy topics, but this is someone providing their life story in hopes that it reaches or touches someone and can help them as they navigate those experiences and that trauma. Starting this video off with Tarana Burke's Unbound, the story of liberation and the Me Too movement. I'm only about 60% or so in, and it really doesn't focus heavily on the Me Too movement, at least not up at the point that I've received. But it talks about how Tarana, all of her life experience with her, what happened to her as a child in terms of being molested and raped, and how interaction with, different women in her community, and it wasn't as uncommon. Her going to college and, experiencing or living through Rodney King assaults, and just really seeing a lot of the things that she had to grapple with. It turned her into an activist, and that is what built her platform for the Me Too movement. So again, I'm not finished with that. Some of the other books that I'll mention is coming up next. So please take a look at some of these clips. Again, it is going to be a hodgepodge. I'm trying to save as much content as I possibly can from the other 2 days that I filmed. I think I actually edited one day completely out. So let's go ahead and transfer over to Michelle. The first book that I picked up this year, I had it in mixed media. So that would be Michelle Obama's Becoming. So I had this on my shelf probably since 2019, and I picked it up 3 times before I actually slogged through and made it. And it wasn't because I wasn't interested in her story. Obviously, look at this beautiful, gorgeous, change maker. She was someone that I truly wanted to know everything, pick her brain. If you could put me in a room and have me speak to someone, she'd definitely be on my list. But it was hard for me to really sit down and focus on her story. Again, this is well before I decided to read nonfiction. And what better way to really come to grasp and consume a story than listening to her? I'm telling you, I just wanted to hear her voice, and that really did make this experience, top notch. But what I did not know that I was going to get a chance to read through is not only her experience of her childhood and what led up to the woman she is today, but it shares some revelations or some truths that we did not know about. So I will tell you, I'll try to put as many content warnings as I can. One of the biggest things that may be a trigger for someone in this book is Michelle Obama talks about her having a miscarriage. And I know that is something that a lot of women experience or have experienced or may experience in the future. So this may be very difficult for those to read. Obviously, this is not something that's widely broadcast in terms of the things that you think about when you think about Michelle Obama's. But one of the quotes that I thought was, earth-shaking for me was that for many women, including myself, which again, this is an excerpt from Michelle, for many women, including myself, wife can feel like a loaded word. It carries a history. Another quote that I really enjoyed was her saying, I was female, black, and strong, which to certain people, maintaining a certain mindset translated to only to angry. It is another damaging cliche, one that has been forever used to sweep minority women to the perimeter of every room. An unconscious signal not to listen to what we've got to say. Again, I try to focus my nonfiction reading to Black women, and so I felt seen when she talks about the stereotype that we all get. Stereotype of Black women is to be angry and to be strong and to be argumentative, right? She also goes to say it's remarkable how a stereotype function as an actual trap. When you aren't being listened to, why wouldn't you get louder? If you're written off as angry or emotional, doesn't that just cause more of the same? So I love that she was able to speak up and talk about that, because again, one of the things that she was labeled during the campaign is angry. And again, from a physical perspective, she was labeled strong, but you have to be strong in any format when you're going through, or any regard, when you're going through a campaign process. There's so much mudslinging. But again, as a Black woman, that was something that was used against her as being strong. Another quote she has is, if you don't get out there and define yourself, you'll be quickly and inaccurately defined by others. If that doesn't hit the mark, I don't know what else will. If you haven't picked this up, if you've been struggling to pick this up like I have, I would highly encourage you to pick it up in the audio format. Again, even if you just want to hear her voice, it is soothing and touching, and I'm glad this was the first book of 2022 that I picked up in terms of nonfiction. Um, the second book I picked up was Gabrielle Union's You Got Anything Stronger. What a perfect title to her second book. Um, this was something where her first book was asking about wine. No. I need Hennessy and cranberry. I need a rum and coke. I need something that is going to strengthen me and give me like that blow to the chest like that book did. Gabrielle Union touched so many things, and again, there's a lot of trigger warnings that I want to make sure that I share as I talk about this. You know, thinking about her story, she talked a little bit about thoughts of suicide. She talked about IVF. She talked about what it's like to raise a child in the LGBT community. There's so much that she mentioned. She talks about, being raped as a young woman. So again, there's quite a bit of trigger warnings. I don't think that I could label them all. If you want to know more, please do your research before you read it. But I honestly think that this was leaps and bounds from the first book. Again, it's a nonfiction, so I typically don't rate it unless I absolutely love it and adore it. That first book that she provided felt as though it was a good entry point, right? If you weren't really sure about Gabrielle Union, you weren't really sure about, sticking your toe into the water of nonfiction. Her first book, again, I'll put that up on the screen, was a nice, safe entry to me, right? Book right here, the You've Got Anything Stronger, absolutely is a kicker. Some of the some of the quotes that she mentioned in the book that, really stuck with me is, she was talking about the idea of marriage, right? Her and Dwayne Wade, there is an age gap, them being celebrities, her taking her time in order of settling down. A lot of people put a lot of expectation on marriage. And one of the things that really resonated with me was saying, when she said, "Did we settle? Land in a safe, this will do spot and tether ourselves to someone for decades, so we wouldn't be standing alone at the hour of our death, and was it actually worth it?" Marriage has always been kind of dangled as the thing for a woman that you should do. It is what you are expected to desire, aspire to, right? Marriage is an end goal. It is not the state of happiness and desire and joy. It is just something to obtain. And a lot of times it's framed, and I've had, friends and family members and people just associate with me and say, "Hey, do you want to end up alone? Do you want to die with no one and nothing to have achieved?" And it really takes a toll on you when you start to put that into your psyche and you start to think about it. But again, going back to our quote, did you settle? Is this something that you just decided to tether yourself to someone thinking, okay, it's good for the moment, and attach yourself for decades just to say that you didn't die alone? I thought that that was extremely impactful, especially seeing how her and Dwayne Wade lived their life and how many things that they've went through inside of their marriage. And those are just the things that were, shown to us or was revealed. And I think that really speaks to her marriage and how, her concept of, why she went about waiting or why she decided to marry him at the time in which she did. Another quote that she shared was, "I would propose that to worry people are desensitized is to assume that jurors and most people were ever sensitive to Black pain to begin with." So I just love that she was able to mention that and to bring that into light, because that really frames where she was coming from in her stories. After Gabrielle's Union book, I then decided to pick up Somebody's Daughter by Ashley C. Ford. Now, I really tabbed the mess out of this one. Like, I went heavy, This was probably the first book of the year that really hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, I had so many feelings and emotions while reading this that I just had to sit and grapple and appreciate that Ashley C. Ford was able to put her life story out there in terms of it hopefully reaching someone and helping them. I mean, I honestly don't know any better way that I can do this justice by saying this has a lot of, it is multi-layered in terms of the experiences that you go through, and I am so grateful to be able to have read this book. Ashley C. Ford was someone I didn't know who she was before I picked up this book. Again, this is a book of the month, but I saw this on social media and everyone was loving it, and I just said, okay, let me take a risk and take a chance to read this, and I was not disappointed. Some of the things that are addressed in here is child abuse from a parent. It is molestation and or rape by a family member. Dealing with a parent who is incarcerated. A number of other heavy hitting topics that I encourage you again to look at trigger warnings for. But this one right here, again, like I said, I tabbed it to death. Some of the quotes that I think were really impactful was, kids can always tell the difference between adults who want to empower them and adults who want to overpower them. Things that happen with Black and brown children is that we make them grow up well before they're ever meant to. You also have a way of, damping out their light and not allowing them to shine and putting them in certain categories. And children are extremely bright and extremely smart, and they can tell when that's being done, but they can't stop it. So for her to be able to mention that and call light to that, I thought it was beautifully done. All right, so the next book that I read that was me, right? If you're looking for something that just truly spoke to my experience, right? Like, I personally have no, and from a trajectory, like, I am not on Michelle Obama's pathway. I did not experience the hardships that Ashley C. Ford did. I am not at the point in which some of the things that Gabrielle Union has experienced that I'm at, but one person that I felt like was a soul sister to me, someone who I could relate with, 10 toes down, Cecily Bowen. I read Bad Fat Black Girl. Gotta say it real slow. So I read Bad Fat Black Girl, and I immediately had to go buy it. Like, I picked this up from the library. Actually, I hadn't seen a ton of people read it. I seen it a couple of times on social media, but I had just happened to be perusing my local library, and I saw this. And let me tell you, this is beautiful. Check her nails, check my nails. Just got them done. But sis is grabbing the cash. Gold jewelry is my thing, even though I'm wearing filled silver today. But gold is primarily my jewelry color of choice, and so, like, tell me this does not scream to the high heavens. Like, this speaks to me. And just like the cover of this book, the inside spoke to me. This is Notes from a Trapped Feminist, and when I tell you I felt seen, this talks about, let me just give you before I go through and discuss the quotes, let me give you it has a table of contents, which we need more of this in our books today, but some of the chapter titles: Chef Kiss, Bad Bitches Only, Knuckin' and Buckin' and Ready to Fight. Let me tell you, I know Cecily and I are probably about the same age or roughly about the same age. That one, it just puts me in a mood. It puts me in, let's have a good time. 5-star bitch as well. Run me my money. Like, and again, I know this is a lot of vocal content. We're all adults here, or hopefully we pretty much are. These chapter titles, if they don't tell you to pick up this book, it's honestly not for you. This is not for someone who does not appreciate Black women, and I don't mean just Black educated women. I mean Black women in any format that they present themselves, right? As we're talking about, she talks about how we stigmatize women coming outside the house with bonnets. I'll be honest, I've done that myself, but I've also been the same woman who walks outside with a bonnet on her head. So, pot calling kettle here, and she calls us to the rug on that. She talks about experiences of being being Black and being fat, and those women being demoralized, right? And hyposexualized without being wanted. She talks about something that I actually had a conversation with one of my friends about, is how heavier Black women, or heavier women in general, are not seen as a threat for being kidnapped or raped or anything of that nature because of their size, and that they don't need to be protected, when that is an absolute lie. Just as vulnerable as, any woman, no matter their size or their stature. They experience the same, sexual traumas and that any woman can face, right? And so I love that she calls it like it is, and she speaks her truth. Some of the quotes that just like sold it for me, and this is not nearly all of them, but one of it was like, we live complex lives, political and sometimes contradictory. That's it, right? We are so complex. Like I said earlier, I am the woman who may have shamed someone else for walking out there outside in their bonnet, and me, I'm going to pick up my pizza or my chicken in some slides and a hair scarf, right? Or we have to be political in times where we actually are being intentional about it, and then sometimes, us just being, alive is a political statement, right? And the things that we go through. She talks about, Black women do what we have to when we can't do what we want to, right? Like, we want to live, a carefree life, and we want to be taken care of, and we want to have all of the things that are afforded to other women. But we have to make ends meet, and we have to do the things that we don't want to do in order for us to thrive. She also mentions our love has been equated with a form of martyrdom. It grows stronger the more we suffer and hold niggas down. Baby, that is a word. I mean, she was preaching in this book. I honestly, again, I don't think that, even since, I don't think that I've read a book outside of the short story poetry collection that I'm going to talk about in one moment. I don't think that I've read anything else that has been as relatable to me as this book. So I absolutely love it. 5 out of 5 stars. Again, don't too much rate nonfiction, but that is one that I stand behind. Similarly, in that same vein, I read a poetry collection by Ebony Stewart. That poetry collection is Home Girlhood. I'll put it up on the screen. Also 5 out of 5 stars. Extremely relatable. It is, again, in terms of the poems, it is pretty vulgar as well. But I'm telling you, they are, as far as an editing, they are crafted and they transition so well. Dare I say it, in relation to Beyonce's latest album, the transition of these poems are as flawless as Beyonce's transition in Renaissance. Ebony Stewart put her foot into this, and I mean, she heel toed. She goes from "Ayo, bitch, let me holla at you" to how to write a poem about sexual assault to an ode to my pussy. And those transition of those poems were so seamless that, I mean, it was masterful. She also has a lot of juxtaposition in this story because she has a poem labeled as Happy Father's Day in the same collection as Happy Mother's Day. And the two storylines couldn't be any more different, but all tie into the same experience of being Black and what those, relationships are like. This is a gold mine. These poems really, to me, encapsulated the Black experience in a written format. It talks about, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And she pretty much culminates her short story collection with a poem known as "I'm So Tired, Sis." I want her to get all of her roses. I don't think nearly enough people have read this collection. It only has 70 reviews on Goodreads. And I want to be able to be the person that puts that platform out there for Ebony Stewart, because this is a work of art. And I loved every moment of it again. So next I have, the next nonfiction that I picked up was Viola Davis' Finding Me. So I'm going to be honest, I love Viola Davis. Like, she is a top tier artist of our time in terms of, her craft in the film and, musical or Broadway and TV industry. She is game changing. How to Get Away with Murder is really what sealed the deal in terms of her stardom for me. And I know a lot of people, she talks about that, and I really, if anyone were to say, hey, do I have a testimony? Viola Davis has it, right? She is the person that made it out the mud. Like, looking at the woman she is today and all that she has accomplished, you would have never known her story if she didn't share it with us. And I mean, that woman is resilient. She talks about a lot of things, whether, from triggering in terms of basic needs, lack of heat, living in desolate or destitute environment, right? Where you have vermin running across your toys and your dolls. She talks about, the impacts of child molestation. She talks about, being bullied and picked on. She talks about colorism. Has a testimony, and in Finding Me, you learn all of the things that compile to make her who she is. And again, another thing that talked about is abuse, in your family, dynamic. One of some of the quotes that really inspired me, and I know if once you read this book, go back and watch her interview with Oprah. She talks about, a quote is, "It's widely held belief that dark-skinned women just don't do it for a lot of Black men. It is a mentality rooted in both racism and misogyny, that you have no value as a woman if you do not turn them on, if you are not desirable to them. It is ingrained thinking and dictated by oppression," right? So a lot of your value and your worth as a woman is, again, placed on you based on whether or not you're attractive to men. And that is enriched, as she stated, in racism and in misogyny, right? Being a black woman, you are either hypersexualized or you're not attractive. And what is that spectrum? And how and where do you fit? Again, from a misogynistic standpoint, you are no better than a vessel for you to, carry a child in, or for you to fulfill the fantasies and desire of a man. And so for her to state that, I felt it, and I'm not a dark-skinned woman, so I can't compare in terms of her plight and her struggle, but I do identify with pieces in which she's mentioning. Again, I talked about her portrayal of her character and How to Get Away with Murder, and one of the things that she did was a creative or artistic expression or decision that she made. She talks about in the book how she decided to take off the wig. She felt it was her duty to honor black women by not showing an image that is palatable to the oppressor, right? She says, to people who have tarnished and punished the image of black womanhood for so long, it said all of us who are, who we are is beautiful, even in our imperfection. I mean, if you've watched How to Get Away with Murder and you watch that scene, you know exactly what she's talking about and how much it shook the table for the black community and across America, right? You have a woman who is, in her home, in the confines of her home, but she's married to a white man, and she comes home after being this amazing professor and lawyer who's polished and put together, and she, bears her soul on screen to show who she is and the truth of the matter and the beauty that is her being her natural self. I loved hearing that came from her as an artist, showing and showcasing and putting that into the character and making it as realistic as possible. Again, as I talk about her and her resilience, she made a line that really defines who Viola Davis is and how how she's lived her life through this. She said, "I knew my life would be a fight, and I realized that I had it in me." That is truly, to me, probably should be her tagline or her phrase as it relates to finding me. Not to say that everything was a fight or a struggle, because I love the beauty in her sharing her story of her, marriage, and how easy it was for her to fall in love and be desired by a man who loved her wholly, right? I love their love story, and I love how, they continually show up in their as a couple, in today. But hey y'all, I am back to close out this vlog. As you saw at the beginning of it, I'm going to tell you this video probably was never supposed to see the light of day. It was one of those situations where I had to take a step back, really walk away from it. I had recorded it like 5 or 6 times and I was just frustrated. But truth be told, this video needs to happen, right? I do a lot of romance content on my channel, but I read more than romance, and I really felt the need to talk about nonfiction, specifically Black women memoirs that I've been reading. So hopefully you picked up a recommendation. Since I've recorded this video, obviously I've changed my hair. That can tell you how long it's been since I actually recorded. But I also picked up another book that was Front Runner by Cori Bush. I would be a fool if I didn't mention this book. I know this video is already long, so I'll give a brief synopsis. I actually finished it today. If you don't know who Cori Bush is, this is the perfect book for you all to read. She is a resident of St. Louis, Missouri, which so am I. She is actually up for re-election for Missouri House seat, and a woman who has experienced sexual assault has gone through, and she talks about her journey in the medical profession and her walk with faith, and what ultimately led her to becoming a politician. And so, no matter what side you stand on, please make sure that you all, again, take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, pick up a book, and let me know what you think. Comments in the chat, and feel free to subscribe. Talk to you all later. Bye.